Hello, and welcome back to the Triangle Business Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joey Nattel, and followed
I'm
by
Scott Moore.
Scott Moore.
Happy Friday.
Happy
Happy
Friday,
podcast.
y'all. So, on this episode, we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome, how it shows up in business, and how it gets in the way of business, or just life sometimes in general. So, I'll throw it to you, Scott. When you think of imposter syndrome, what comes to mind?
Um, I, I'm not an expert on this, and I don't know any kind of technical definition, but to me, it shows up as this like voice that says a variety of things, but usually something in the land of, you're not good enough,
Hmm.
or this doesn't really provide value,
Hmm.
or um, maybe you get paid too much. They're going to figure out that you're an imposter, that you're a
Hmm.
fraud. um, and I think it happens to almost everybody at some point.
Hmm.
I mean, maybe not if you're like a narcissist or a sociopath, but other
Yeah.
than that, you know.
That's a whole episode
I'm
we could
sure.
do. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, what about you? You read a lot. Yeah, do you know? You probably
Do
know more than I do.
I do know a lot about this topic. So I will, before I begin with that, I'd like to make sure the audience is all on the same page about this idea of confidence in general. So I'll start with the Latin word of confidence, which means confidere, which means intense trust or
Hmm.
faith in oneself. And so the more trust you have in yourself, the more confidence you have in a lot of ways. So I've had a lot of people say to me and a lot of clients be like, I don't want to become too confident. I don't want to be arrogant or full of myself. And some
Hmm.
people think you can become narcissistic by becoming too confident. That is crap.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's not actually possible to do that. Um, we're not going to talk about narcissism. We may touch on it, but that's not a focus of this episode because that's a whole nother can of worms entirely. But what I will say is that those people that are full of themselves or arrogant are actually the least confident people that you'll ever meet, aside from a narcissist, which technically is more. And that's, again, we're not going to delve into that too much today. So, and you may say to me like, Joey, what do you mean? They're so confident and they come off as such. Yes, they may appear to be that way. And in certain areas, they may be competent, but you can be competent and come off not very confident. That's just
Oh yeah, for
perceptions in
sure.
a lot of ways. So what I say to people is just like saying I'm going to become too confident is like saying I'm going to eat too healthy today.
Hmm.
As far as I know, that's impossible. As far as I know.
Yeah. Well, I
So
think like I would I would sort of attach to that line of thinking, this sort of um understanding of like I don't know what I don't know,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
also there's some stuff where I do know what I don't
Yes.
know. And then I think that you know positive confidence, and again, maybe that's a redundancy, right? Like you were
Yeah.
saying, confidence is inherently a positive trait.
ATM
It
machine
would
machine.
be an understanding of I do know what I don't know.
Yes.
I'm aware that there's a lot that I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm also confident that I do know what I do know. Like that I have a great understanding of the things that I've worked hard to have understanding of.
Yes.
And I think that when you doubt that is probably where imposter syndrome pokes its ugly head
Yes. I'll circle back to that to finish or to add on to what you were saying. Um, well, two things. One, the fun quote Aristotle once said, the more you learn, the less you know. And to learn so much, you know nothing at all.
in.
So that's kind of just the nature of things in general about learning. But kind of to tack onto what you were saying, like when you experience a truly confident person, like to their core, or someone who's arrogant, you're not really necessarily going to know the difference in the media. And I'm going to attach this to imposter syndrome in a minute and how they slightly are similar, but also slightly different. Um, so when you experience someone like, I don't know, let's say they're really good at talking, connecting, or talking to girls, or just doing business in general, it doesn't matter the context. What can happen is a lot of times is like, wow, that person's really good at that, and I'm not. And it might make you see or feel or hear like, ooh, these are areas I lack. That doesn't feel good. Now, what an immature person, I would call them immature, would do like, you suck and try to tear them down. That happens a lot. We see that social media all the time, right? And a truly arrogant person you'll see over time because they constantly have to be not necessarily be right per se, but have to prove themselves either socially, intellectually, physically, some kind. Like, look at me. What do you think of that kind of thing? That's an extreme way to put it. Versus the truly confident person, like, not always. They'll speak up when they want to, but they don't have to prove themselves necessarily. They can be the humble one in the room, kind of thing. Imposter syndrome is kind of what you said, is this interesting thing of like you don't feel good enough, you don't feel smart enough, you don't feel enough, or you know something of those kind of limiting statements in a lot of ways. And if you may not feel good in your abilities or feel qualified, your self-esteem might be lower in some ways. But if you keep getting, unless you do the inner work, if you don't do the inner work and you keep achieving and like they just keep giving me raises and keep giving me promotions, your imposter syndrome will actually increase.
Yeah, that makes
It,
sense.
it can increase, not always, but sometimes. And so like one way to combat that is to like surround your, like one of my favorite motivational speakers was Les Brown. He always said, surround yourself with people who believe in you, 'cause you'll begin to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
so go ahead.
I
No.
was just going to say one of my theories about imposter syndrome and like why is this a thing that nobody ever used to talk about it and now it seems like it's a topic that we hear about a lot.
Yeah.
As we've evolved into the information age,
Hmm.
I think the way people spend their work lives is very, very different than it was not that long ago.
Hmm.
And most people's jobs 50 years ago like had a lot more tangible outcome
Hmm.
than we do now.
Yes.
And like even in my own lifetime, I'll tell you, like sort of my, I don't know if I really want to call it a real job, but sort of my first real job was I ran the copy shop at a printing company.
Yes.
And this was not like a managerial position. This was like my day would, I walk into my office, there's a work order in my inbox. It says this company wants 200 copies of this booklet, spiral bound with a clear plastic cover on it.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, okay. So I go and schlep a bunch of big boxes of paper and stick them in the copy machine and make copies of this thing. And when my day is over, there's 200 copies of that booklet, spiral bound with a clear cover on it. And I'm like, I made a thing,
Hmm.
right? It took a certain amount of time. There were mistakes. I some had to rerun some stuff, or I had to, check it periodically. But like morning started, there were no booklets. When my day was done, there were booklets. So there was no possibility for me to be like, am I really, good enough? I'm like, no, I made the thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And in my grandparents' day, a huge percentage of Americans like worked on farms or worked in
Hmm.
the trades. And so it was like if the bricks got laid,
Yeah.
if the crops got harvested,
Yes.
there was no possibility you were going to be like, well, did I do it? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, sure. You know, kind of parallel to what you were saying before, like comparison is the thief of joy. And
Yes.
might be like, well, Bob can lay bricks faster than I can lay them.
Yes.
But there's
Or
no like, I'm not really a bricklayer
right. Yeah.
because the bricks got laid.
Yeah.
So,
Or maybe you can write them prettier and cleaner and tighter, neater, or whatever.
right.
So yeah, it's very true, and you bring up a really good point here. And you're right. In a lot of workplaces, there is a lot of subjective,
Yeah.
harder to measure, intangible things. And in our last episode, you talked about our this jar idea of like the task you were doing to grow your business. And I love that because it made, because I've certainly struggled this, my own business, like forgetting to do all the things. And a tool I typically use to encapsulate this idea is there's this concept of like we have a goal and where we're going.
Yep.
Let's get this way. And then there's where we are and where the goal is. This is important to have. I mean, this is essentially coaching in general. You know, a goal, you can't coach somebody in general. Um, And so a lot of people, what they do is they get stuck here thinking only about this. And I like to call that like hell, like you are in hell. Now, some people really, really enjoy, I'll say negative motivators. Like I'm thinking of really extremes like David Goggins, who's just like, just talking real nasty, like you're a piece of crap. You're always going to be a piece of crap. Better get up and wake up and do, just really like prove me wrong kind of thing. And some of that works for people. Most don't. And in my experience, it might work for a time to take action, like with fear, but it gets inconsistent results in a lot of ways. So we're not going to debate here about right now what negative or positive motivators, what's better or not, because they're both important. You need both in a lot of ways. But for the sake of this conversation, when you get stuck in this hell thing, you start constantly comparing yourself to what you're not. Well, I'm not here yet in business. I'm not there yet physically. I'm not with the right person yet, or whatever. And it's actually becomes you can't receive compliments as much. So it perpetuates this imposter syndrome of where you think you need to be. And so a simple way to combat that is just like using this analogy, like kind of pick your head up and turn around and look at how far you've come.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to do, but it simply could just be like, what are the achievements you're most proud of? And I love that example you gave in the last episode of just like, how was the week? How many sticky notes of different categories I did to feel like, hey, look, I'm moving the needle. This feels really good. And here's a physical, tangible way to measure the intangible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something just popped into my head, and it's well, it's not really a coincidence. I keep this on my desk at all times
Uh-huh.
since I got it recently.
Yeah.
But um, this is a cup with my face on it and my name
Yeah.
and a goofy picture of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what it's full of is it's full of a bunch of notes
Hmm.
that contain hearable praise.
Hmm.
And I hadn't, again, when we first said we were going to talk about this topic, I hadn't made this connection. But um, hearable praise is a concept that I was introduced to in the Otherworld community that I'm part of. This is a adventure weekend that we do up in New England. You've been to it. I'm a
Yes.
staff member of it.
Those who don't
But
know, highly check it out. We will put the link in the show notes.
oh yeah, everybody should go to Otherworld.
Oh, it's
It's the
amazing.
best thing I do all year.
It's amazing. And you can only do it once in your
You
entire
can only
life.
go once. You can only go once. Uh, we'll have somebody on from Otherworld sometime. That'd
We
be
will.
fun.
And we'll talk more about it when the time
But
comes. Yeah.
but one of the core concepts that was introduced in that community is the idea of hearable praise. And hearable praise, like obviously, like we can't solve our own imposter syndrome by praising ourselves, because if we could, we probably wouldn't have the problem in the first place, right?
Yeah.
But what we can do is we can build a community around ourselves. When you're talking about like surround yourself with people who believe in you, where hearable praise gets to be super effective is I think most people enjoy giving compliments to some degree.
They do.
And we say things like, Joey, you're so smart.
Thank you.
Um, I say, Joey, you're so fun, right?
Thank you.
Um, and that's nice.
Hmm.
It's nice to hear that.
Yeah.
That's not what hearable praise is.
Mm.
Um, when I say, Joey, the last time you came over to our open garden day and you and I stayed up on here until like midnight, um, having a couple of beers and just talking about life and about business, that is some of the most fun I've had in a long time. And we said we were going to stop at like 7 p.m. and we went to midnight
Yeah.
because I was having so much fun.
Yeah.
See, like that hits different
Yeah.
because you're it's a specific example of how the way that you are in that
Hmm.
example fun, like it showed up for me.
Hmm.
And you can't bat that away.
Yeah.
You can't deny it. You can't be like, well, lots of people are fun. Like,
Yes.
no, like that happened.
Yeah.
um and it is in the specifics, like praising someone for a specific thing that they did is hearable.
Hmm.
And like, again, telling somebody like you're so smart, they'll blow that off the second they think, well, I don't always feel smart, or I know a lot of people who are smarter than me.
Hmm.
I don't feel smart when I'm around them.
Hmm.
Or I did a dumb thing the other day. If you say like, you solved this specific problem for me
Hmm.
and you made my life better by doing so, um they they can't deny it, like it
Hmm.
happened, and
True.
therefore they can sort of own that. And that, like, that's what this cup is full of. Is at our last Otherworld event, we spent the weekend, like occasion, like the little slips were out where anybody could access them, and they're like, every time you think of a thing
Hmm.
specifically that somebody did to make your life better, to be kind to you, that just them being awesome, when you think of it, just write it down and put it in their cup.
Hmm.
And at the end of the weekend, like everybody walked away with a cup full of hearable praise. And I keep it on my desk because when I have moments of imposter syndrome or just feeling bad about myself, or when like things in my life are not going awesome,
Hmm.
I'm like, here's about 15 different ways that I made a difference for somebody else.
That's
So,
beautiful. That's amazing. I love that tool and definitely want to do that. Do that at my next party. But that's
um,
true. I really agree with that. Oh, what were you gonna say?
it takes practice,
Yes.
and it's not like you learn about it and then you do it all the time. I'm gonna not go into details about this because it's really personal,
Sure.
but there's somebody on Otherworld staff
Hmm.
who's making me better at doing this thing,
Hmm.
because I think very, very highly of her. I mean, I think very, very highly of almost everybody on staff.
Hmm.
But I said to her, like, I gave her a compliment
Hmm.
that was kind of general. I told her it would be difficult to imagine someone having a better friend than you are.
Hmm.
And she said, what has you say that?
What
And
has you say that?
yeah, what has you say that?
Uh-huh.
And I gave her a specific example, and she said, oh, thank you. Um, that feels really powerful to hear that.
Mm.
And so that was her training me to be a better hearable praise giver. Because like, you're an awesome friend
Yeah.
is not hearable praise. That you did that specific thing for that person at a
Mm.
moment that was really hard for them,
Mm-hmm.
that is hearable praise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I've been trying to like adopt that practice that when somebody says, like, oh, Scott, you're so this or you're so that, I say, what has you say that?
Mm-hmm.
No. Can you give me an example? Yeah, well, this. I'm like, great. And then uh, that's me paying forward the gift of specificity that
Mm-hmm.
she was giving me in that moment. So,
I love that. Makes me think like the devil's in the details is what came to mind. I think about, I don't know if the devil in this case, more like the gratitude and the praise. But it's so true that when you are more specific, it is harder to deny. So I like that distinction in that, and that is very true because in a lot of ways it's you're giving compliments from the heart and it is more authentic and more genuine. And I think if people, I believe, if people did that more, they would struggle with imposter syndrome less or be able to overcome that level of it faster, more efficiently.
yeah.
So that's very true. I like that.
Well, the one of the points that is driven home in the in that community is that the lady who runs it, Christy, she's
Mhm.
like, I love it that you guys tell each other,
Yeah.
but don't leave that here.
Yeah.
Don't leave that here at the camp.
Hmm.
Take that into the world. That may be the most fundamental good that we as a community do in the world,
Hmm.
is by spreading this one thing.
Hmm.
Is that if people could really hear the difference that they made in somebody else's day or life moment, like
Hmm.
what what might that change for them? What might that inspire them to do, because they're not being so hard on themselves?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I'm really glad that came up in the course of this, because I
You me
think it
too.
is it's one of the best things I've ever encountered, and I
Mhm.
try to use it all the time, and I'm slowly getting better
Well, 1% better is better than nothing.
at
So,
it.
I mean, that's definitely true for our listeners and definitely a good tool that I'll be utilizing with my clients moving forward and with my friends as well. Um, I guess what comes to mind about this is now that we've given some concepts and tools and ideas about how to overcome imposter syndrome, we've kind of touched on like where it comes from in a lot of ways. I guess the direction we'll go is where do you see it show up most often in business per se? And how does it manifest itself in ways that they may not know,
Yeah.
but you know from your experience?
So yeah, I've run into this a lot with a lot of different people over the years.
Hmm.
Here's a specific thing. It is more prevalent in service-based businesses than in product-based businesses, because again, putting the product into somebody's hands means
Hmm.
it's tangible, like
Yeah.
they did the thing.
Yeah.
It's more common, like, or it's maybe a little bit less common in the trades, because
Hmm.
again, the tangibility of what they do. Like, look, HVAC
Yeah.
service,
Yeah.
right? It's a service.
Yeah.
But if your house is hot when they get there and it's cool when they leave, then they did their job, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
pat, 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 I'm a good service technician because I did the thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it really hits people hard in when they do things that are um, thought based and with long term outcomes.
Hmm.
So, like, marketing is a great example.
Yes.
People in marketing, it's like, when we work on your marketing today, it's not going to create a result for you today.
Hmm.
It's going to create a result for you 6 to 12 months, or excuse me, 6 to 12 weeks from now,
Yeah.
probably at the earliest.
Yeah.
And my coach Bill used to say, whatever you're doing marketing wise right now, you will start to see a result of in about 6 weeks.
Mm.
Um, and uh, that always felt correct to me. Like, again, maybe I'm just making up the story that Bill was right about everything, but the fact was, is like, I could all, when I would start doing something consistently about 6 weeks out, I would go like, oh, look, it's showing up.
Hmm.
Um, and so, but I mean, like, it's hard to keep the faith for those 6 weeks. Like, 6 weeks is a long time.
Yes.
And um, so I think stuff like that, right? The work that we do with business owners, where we're saying like, okay, well, we're going to work on this, we're going to work on that.
Hmm.
Sure, like once in a while, there's like a thing you can do today that will make a
Hmm.
difference today.
Hmm.
You know, we interviewed that person, they said yes to the job,
Yes.
things like that. But a lot of it is, it's going to be a minute before we see a result from this. And getting off a call like that and being like, did we even accomplish anything today?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's rough. That's rough on you.
That's very true. And so, at least in my own practice, that's how for my own mental sanity, one of the things that I've adopted is at the end of each call with my clients, or even in just times with friends, if we're having like a deep conversation, I'd be like, was that helpful? Was that valuable?
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, or like, yes. I'm like, cool. Thanks for the feedback. That keeps me going as well. And so, yeah, there's something else that comes to mind I want to share that's a little kind of a side tangent, but also related to the topic we've been sharing, is I'd like to share this analogy that I have of what the difference between self-worth, confidence, and self-esteem is. I think this is going to be more of a rounded out way to compartmentalize them for a lot of people. I heard this from someone that I expanded on it, a colleague of mine, and I like to explain that self-worth, let's say you're building a house and the foundation, let's say it's a cement foundation, is your self-worth. It's the cornerstone in a lot of ways. And the house itself is confidence. It's the structure. Self-esteem would be kind of the market value, the perceived value.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so a lot of people, especially when they're dealing with imposter syndrome, they're like, oh, I don't have a lot of confidence. They feel like their confidence fluctuates. And your confidence isn't the thing that fluctuates fast, it's self-esteem. When you get rejected, it usually has a dips or so, just like market trends and housing and things like that. Um, if you don't have a house, you don't understand this. I don't know. Think of like something valuable, like Pokemon cards or something really, I don't know, that may not translate very well, but anyway. So I use this analogy where like, what if a tree falls on your house? What, what then? Well, that's going to be a really big blow to your self-esteem and probably your confidence because you might have some structural damage. And this may not translate perfectly, but ideally, the thing is, if a tree falls on your house and it damages it, there are probably some cracks in your foundation. Now, we don't have a foundation that's like a wall around it, but you get the idea here.
Sure.
And so, when you have self-worth, which is kind of the thing that does not shift very much,
Mm-hmm.
you do inner work, also known as shadow work, which is all coaching and self-development is essentially shadow work, it's just a fancy term. So when you work on those, you are working on the imposter syndrome itself. I mean, technically working on all three are going to help with that. And so continuing the analogy, like when you repair the house, which increases self-efficacy, which is believing you can do the thing, which is kind of that tangible thing you said, your cornerstone is stronger and maybe the foundation is so strong you can build your house bigger and so big and strong and resilient that a tree comes your way and might bounce off. Now, that's not realistic,
Yeah.
but you get the idea. Building resilience is the other piece here, too. which keeps the self-esteem from going as low as fast because it
Mm.
will arise as well. I think those are kind of a cocktail factor that play into imposter syndrome, where imposter syndrome typically shows up a lot in work, sometimes in romantic relationships too, but I've experienced having mostly in work. What about you?
I think I experience it more with work.
Yeah.
Again, what I do,
Mhm.
it's funny when I go explain to people, like, so what do you do? I'm a business coach. Okay, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, I talk to people and see where they're at, and I do help them, like, tangibly measure. Like, I look at balance sheets and profit and loss statements and look at things in there and all that, but also big picture planning things. And then I'm asking, like, what do you want this to look like? What do you want this to look like when it's the best way you could envision it right now? And I'm
Mhm.
like, I convince people to do the thing they want. And people are like, I usually do what I want. And I'm like, well, that's not always been my experience.
It's very
No.
true.
And so it's funny, but it's easy for that. It's very long-term planning. I mean, most of my clients have been with me for years.
Hmm.
And, like, I'm very proud of the work that we've accomplished. But on a given week, it can feel like we're either making no progress or sometimes going backwards. And that's when I'm like, what am I even doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say something like, I loved your house analogy. And I
Yeah.
think that conceptually, that's very big picture. I want to offer something I think is real, like, practical, tangible thing.
Sure.
This has been true for me. It may be true for our listeners. Um, I believe every person should have a creative practice, a hobby, or a business. I don't care, but
Hmm.
probably a hobby where the outcome is something tangible. So, like that, when I was talking about working at the printing company, I'm like, look at all these booklets. I want people to have something where they're like, before there was not a thing, and
Hmm.
now there is a thing
Hmm.
because I willed it into being, because
Hmm.
my creative practice brought that forth. I think that
Hmm.
is so powerful. And um, I think it is really effective at combating imposter syndrome. Like, I've mentioned it a couple times before, and my friends know, but, like, I'm a blacksmith.
Hmm.
Today, by the way, is the 7th anniversary of when I got my anvil. It came up in my
Wow.
Facebook
You heard
memories.
it here.
And
Seventh anniversary.
it's the 7th anniversary. And, like, it feels like I've been doing this for a long time. But, like, let me tell you something. When you are having a bad day,
Hmm.
or if you're frustrated, or if you don't see your worth, first of all, hitting a hot piece of metal with a hammer feels cathartic.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
also, it is creative. And I'm like, before, there was no bottle opener, and
Hmm.
now I have made a bottle opener. Before, there was no
Hmm.
this highly specific one particular kind of use tool that I just needed to make. That
Hmm.
wasn't there.
Yes.
But, like, what it came up in my memories a couple, 3 or 4 years ago, I needed a tool.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I could go to the store and I could buy this tool. I'm like, actually, I think I can make this tool.
Yeah.
And, like, it wasn't pretty and it wasn't perfect, but it worked
Yes.
because I hit it with a hammer until it worked. And, like, you know, I don't, like, if you do origami, before there was a stack of paper and
Yeah.
now there's a swan. If
Yes.
you're a painter, great. Now there's a picture.
Hmm.
And um, I think that that is incredibly powerful. I think everybody should have a creative practice.
Yes.
Um, I One of my friends and I had a debate about whether digital creation counts.
Okay.
My answer to that is, it does if you think it counts.
Yes. I agree.
Like, look, I love computer games. It's one of my biggest hobbies I spend the most amount of time on. I don't count
Yes.
that as my creative practice.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you like do digital art, sure.
Yeah.
You know, if you write, like, then yeah, like before there were no words on the page, now there's words on the page. Bam.
Mm. Well said. I completely agree. And that I need to think about what are my creative hobbies that I can do more on a consistent basis for
What
sure.
are your creative hobbies?
Well, probably cosplay is the first thing that came to mind, which
Yeah.
is a tangible thing. But it's not something I do consistently. So that is something I get to figure out for sure. So dressing up, costumes, hair, wig, makeup, and just like feels really good. But I'm like, look at all this work I put into this.
Yeah.
I don't usually make most of my costumes. I commission my friends to do it, but the makeup, the body paint, the all the things, it feels really
Well,
good.
we're gonna have an example soon because like next week is Dragon Con, right?
That is true. Yes, I will be I'll be there doing
Yeah.
that. So I'm excited for that for
Post
sure.
pictures.
Yes, I will definitely be posting pictures. To wrap up this episode, any other thoughts or things you'd like to share with our listeners, Scott?
This is gonna end up absolutely being a theme because in a lot of our episodes,
Yes.
but the single most prevalent problem that business owners face is
Mm,
isolation.
yes.
So if you are having imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
tell somebody.
Yeah.
Like, even just saying that out loud feels really uncomfortable because that requires a lot of vulnerability. And you
Hmm.
got to have somebody that you're close to that you know is not going to bullshit you
Hmm.
and say, I am feeling like I am struggling to see my own worth right now.
Hmm.
And then go like, well, here's what I know is that you
Yeah.
like, you've done hearable praise, right? Like
Yeah.
when you made this difference for me, I've seen you make this difference for other people. I've seen you, help carry a client from when they were low to when they were high. What
Hmm.
you do has value.
Hmm.
Um, you need somebody around you that you can share that with. And like be a bro and be that person for them
Yeah.
as well.
Or a girlfriend for your
Sure.
friends
I
as
use the
well.
term bro pretty
I get it. Hey,
gender non-specifically.
I love it. Absolutely. Um, what comes to mind for me, the thing I'll end with is there's this concept of being, doing, and having in a lot of ways. You may be familiar with it, Scott. And I
Got
love
a
it.
mug that says that right there.
Yes, I love it. And so my experience of a lot of people is that they get our society and just how we go to school. There's a lot of like, you must do to have the things you want, have more love, have more money, have the job you want, blah, blah, blah. And so a lot of people get caught up in this idea of they must do. And I think to tie this into imposter syndrome, you feel like I don't do enough or I haven't done enough or don't know enough, things like that. So I think what really we're in a lot of the exercises and tools we've shared today in this episode is it really harkens back to being. If you want to have more love in your life, be more loving. If you want to be have more prosperity, then be more prosperous. It doesn't have to be necessarily give away money. It could be time and energy as well. And so it just reminds you of kind of who you are identity wise
Yeah,
of like being. So I wanted to end on that. So
I love
thank
it.
y'all for listening to this episode. If you
Yeah,
like
this
what
was
you
a
hear,
fun one.
it was a fun one. That was a good one. Absolutely. We're going to do more fun ones in the future for sure. And we're having guests in the future and all sorts of crazy fun things. So if you
Yeah.
like what you hear, give us a follow and we'll see you next time.
Peace.